Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Nolan and Becca R. and Gord M. Thank you for choosing to support the channel.
And starting in the spring of last year when we saw full self-driving, 12.3, and then by the end of the year, 12.9, we just knew autonomy was here. And, I have a new Tesla Model S I bought in December. It drives me everywhere. I tweeted about it the other day. I don't touch the steering wheel. I think it's quite extraordinary. In fact, I think Faber tweeted something or said something on air that got tweeted over the weekend about how he experienced it. And so I'm absolutely convinced robotaxi is coming. It's coming from Waymo, it's coming from Tesla, and it's coming from others around the world, and many in China. We do know that Tesla is going to launch a really great solution. But to your point, Josh, if they don't have speed of pickup in Austin when they launch in June, and if they don't have the lowest price, then there is no market for them, right? Waymo and Uber are already there, right? And that's what this game is about. It's about price and it's about convenience. But we've seen Waymo gain tremendous market share in Los Angeles, in San Francisco. The net promoter scores are even higher than a ride with a human in them. Right? We see parents all over San Francisco that are getting their kids to after-school activities in Waymos with no drivers. They actually prefer it to an Uber with a driver. So I believe that autonomy is here.
I know some people are wondering with Tesla stock, how long do I wait for this to do something? Because it's just a fact, Tesla stock was higher at the end of December 2020 than where it closed today. And I know that can be jarring, but it gets into the valuation discussion, which we're not going to dive into today. I just want to reiterate what I said last week. The volatility for Tesla will be higher, and so far that's proven true. And as I've said all along, the macro drives everything. There's so much uncertainty with tariffs and retaliation, and the markets hate that. No one has any idea how this plays out because we don't know if the tariffs stick around or if they're negotiated down, etc. But if they stick, there's a very real chance things go south for some time. Jerome Powell said this today.
While uncertainty remains elevated, it is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. The size and duration of these effects remains uncertain. While tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation, it's also possible that the effects could be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome would depend on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored, on the size of the effects, and on how long it takes for them to pass through fully to prices. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to make certain that a one-time increase in the price level does not become an ongoing inflation problem. It is too soon to say what will be the appropriate path for monetary policy.
He basically said he doesn't know what to do right now. And based on the stock market reaction, it was not expecting these tariffs to be in place at this level. So as you'll see, panic has certainly set in. And even if Tesla has a great launch with unsupervised in June, that does not mean Tesla stock is going to take off. If the macro situation doesn't improve, if the expectation of interest rates coming down were to reverse, if inflation fears are not calmed and market data in the short term takes a hit, it really won't matter that much what Tesla's doing. For Tesla stock to really take off like many people are waiting for, either they need to start printing profits in a financial statement, or the macro uncertainty needs to greatly dissipate. If you're in accumulation mode, still a great opportunity, but if you're just long and waiting, you may be waiting longer than you initially thought, unless something changes. Over just the past 2 days, the stock market has erased $6.6 trillion.
I've talked to so many tech executives over the last 48 hours, and they don't know, and the worry is the uncertainty, the inventory. What does this mean? You talk about, all the conversations we've had over the years. AI revolution, in my opinion, fourth industrial revolution, where we are in tech, overall markets. And this essentially, it's imploding it, self-inflicted. Now, in terms of the long term, Mag 7, our view of tech, of course, that continues to be very bullish over the long term. But right now, we are sitting on the precipice of an economic Armageddon. But it comes down to, if these tariffs stay, all bets off, because it changes the whole paradigm.
The handy dandy fear and greed index is all the way down at a reading of 4, which is extreme fear. This is by far the lowest reading for as far as this graph goes back, which is 1 year. Fanning the fire, you have JP Morgan saying they're confirming the unprecedented brand damage we had earlier feared when it comes to Tesla. The sales report causes us to think that if anything, we may have underestimated the degree of consumer reaction. You should all know I vehemently disagree with this take, and JP Morgan has been laughably wrong on Tesla stock now for a long time. But my point here is most people in the world are not that well read on Tesla. They can't differentiate truth from FUD. I'm just sharing that the sentiment out there is largely one of fear and uncertainty.
When you look at, vehicles that are assembled here in the U.S., about 45 to 50% of the parts come from outside of the U.S. And many of those supply chains have been developed over decades, and moving them very quickly, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time. I understand the Trump administration, what they're trying to do, because, the U.S. imports about 3 times the value of the automobiles that they export. And, again, I would be, if I was with the automakers, I would really be lobbying the Trump administration, particularly on the parts side, for those parts that meet the USMCA agreement to be exempted. The imports from Mexico have about tripled, and a lot of that has to do with Chinese suppliers going and building plants in Mexico and trying to get around the import duties.
I'm also disappointed to report that Gene Munster is clearly completely off the deep end. He's now saying this is our first look at the impact of recent brand damage, and it appears to be the primary driver behind this quarter's delivery decline. This right here is the stuff and the sentiment that millions of people are being fed that really don't know any better. India, however, is planning to lower import tariffs on EVs. But as has been the case, automakers in India are pushing against this, lobbying the government to delay any cut in tariffs until 2029 for EVs. A government official said, "We've protected the auto industry for too long, we will have to open it up." And they added they want to lower tariffs significantly, including on EVs. Officials declined to disclose the size of the planned duty cut. But here's proof. Negotiations are currently underway, and New Delhi is prioritizing a trade deal with the US. China quickly responded with a 34% tariff on all imports from the US starting on April 10th. But this again could be a negotiating tactic, as right now the US and China are playing chess when it comes to the sale of TikTok's US operations. Until we have more clarity, all you can do is strap on your seatbelts or get off the ride. As a former roller coaster tycoon nut, I'll be strapped in. But I have mentally prepared for the ceiling on Tesla stock being on tighter and for longer given the macro developments recently. But again, this story could change a week from now. And on the tariffs, just remember 98% of the people you're seeing commenting on them have no clue. Anyone trying to make dogmatic one-way statements like they're great or they're the worst ever is full of it. It's a very nuanced conversation with many different things taken into consideration, pros and cons, short-term and long-term implications, but all anyone seems to care about is the stock market for the next 6 months. As you listen to commentary, just try to boil down what that individual's incentives are. For Wall Street analysts that have been bullish, of course they're going to hate the tariffs because it's not good for the stock market in the short term. According to data from Atlas Public Policy, more projects were canceled in the first quarter of 2025 than in the previous 2 years combined. They said it's hard at the moment to be a manufacturer in the US given uncertainties on tariffs, tax credits, and regulations. A primary driver, the EV outlook was already looking pretty bearish before the election, and now with tariffs and trade wars, any downside in the outlook would naturally lead to some battery cancellations. In fairness, many of these cancellations were for startup companies, but even established companies like Hyundai have decided to make both hybrids and full EVs at its plant in Georgia. All I'll say for now is you know what to do when others are fearful. Up in Canada, the government of Yukon has decided to respond to this latest round of tariffs. They've decided to end rebates for all Tesla products offered through the Good Energy program. They're also going to to start reviewing Yukon government Starlink accounts and cancel accounts that are not required for business continuity, and they're going to shift Yukon government digital communications away from X. If you ask me, that's a clear attack on Elon, and I would just remind people these tariffs were not Elon's idea. But as they say, guilty by association, I suppose. But for Tesla, effective immediately, purchases of new and used Tesla vehicles and a level 2 chargers will no longer be eligible for rebates. Now listen, let's keep this in context. Yukon was only aiming to have 6,000 EVs on the road by 2030. So it's not a big EV market by any stretch, but it was $5,000 for new Teslas and $3,000 for used. I'm guessing many of you have done the following: created a Tesla account, entered your address to an app for food delivery, used your credit card on Amazon, allowed location services on your cell phone. If any of that is you, your personal information is out there for the growing list of hackers and data brokers to get access to. I really don't know why more people aren't aware that the size of the data broker industry is over $250 billion per year around the world. Let that sink in. That's revenue from collecting your data, processing your data, and selling your data. If that doesn't upset you, then respectfully, I think you just have your head in the sands of disbelief. Do you get scam emails and random phone numbers calling you? The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center reported nearly 1 million cases of internet crime in 2023 just in the US, many of which can be traced back to these data brokers peddling your information. Luckily, there's an easy way out of this mess, and that's with Delete Me, the sponsor of this video. Delete Me specializes in contacting these data brokers to ensure your personal information is removed. What's better, they do this in an ongoing fashion, so as new data brokers pop up, your info will stay off the internet. This task in 2025 would be nearly impossible on your own given the frequency of new data brokers and the time required to call and follow up with the hundreds of data brokers out there. In my most recent report, Delete Me reviewed over 6,000 listings, saving me over 90 hours of work. Even if I valued my time at minimum wage, which I don't, the value of Delete Me becomes glaringly obvious. So if you'd like to take your privacy back, you can head to joindeleteme.com/electrified to get 20% off using my code electrified linked below, or by using the QR code on the screen. As Sawyer shared, Tesla's new FSD supervised early access program is rolling out nationwide. Be sure to update your Tesla app if interested. The word is this might only be for AI4 right now, but customers all over the country are getting access. Tesla said enroll to experience early features before they're widely released, provide your feedback and related vehicle data to help make the next release our best yet. And yeah, Tesla already has an early access group that's developed over the past few years with the whole Mars and AI drivers of the world, but now a similar program is being offered to a much wider group. FYI, I have 2 AI4 vehicles and neither have access, so if you don't, you're not alone. The Tarong battery storage project in Australia, which is using 164 Tesla Megapacks, is entering the grid management system. Queensland has turned to big batteries in a big way, promising a battery blitz after the explosion at a coal-fired station in 2021. Queensland's battery discharger hit a new peak of 475 megawatts on Sunday. 1 year ago, the record was 150 megawatts. That's over a 3x in power output in 1 year. This project will soon be joined by another half a dozen battery projects already under construction. There's been a lot of chatter about Elon maybe leaving Doge early. Some started to get excited that that might happen and the focus could shift back to Tesla. However, JD Vance just said Doge has a lot of work to do and that work is going to continue after Elon leaves, but fundamentally Elon is going to remain a friend and advisor of both me and the president, and he's done a lot of good things. He said the work of Doge is not even close to done. The work of Elon is not even close to done. Would it be awesome if Elon was dedicating 100% of his Doge energy to Tesla? Yes, of course. But people are acting like he hasn't thought about Tesla for 1 second for months, which is just not true. And not just the all hands meeting, but I guarantee you he's still on calls and sending emails and helping to put out fires from a distance. It's just not stuff that's going to make the news. But I think the idea that he's 100% absent from anything Tesla is nonsense. In the US, we finally have a non-launch variant available for the Model Y. The long-range all-wheel drive is listed at $48,990, which by the way is only $1,000 more than the outgoing long-range all-wheel drive variant when it was still available. Right before it was taken down, it was listed at $47,990. Tesla also has a new diamond black color for $1,500. The up-close shots do look pretty awesome with these diamond specs almost having that interstellar vibe. And this paint is available on the Model Y and the 3 in North America. Then in Mexico, they already have the rear-wheel drive variant available. Tesla's VP of Software Engineering, David Lau, has told the company he's stepping down. He's been with Tesla for over 12 years, holding this most recent role since 2017. So obviously, Tesla's software suite in the vehicles is now going to implode, and the company is doomed. Just in case you missed it, yes, that was some sarcasm, playfully mocking how I'm guessing a few individuals will cover this story. Max from Tesla said, "We want to build a few superchargers cool enough to be worthy of the trip itself. Wish we could have kept it under wraps for longer, but submittal was needed for planning approval. We can't hide anything," from Marco. There was some news out of Minnesota that one of these Tesla vandals was spared charges after inflicting thousands of dollars of damage. But many people were conveniently leaving out of the story that the Tesla owner only wanted her to pay the repair bill. I'm not arguing whether it was right or wrong, but this Tesla owner decided not to press charges. I have to pose the question, Tesla either only makes the Cybertruck or only makes this cyber-inspired 3-row SUV. Which one would you prefer Tesla makes? While yes, this looks a lot like the Rivian R1S, which by the way is a vehicle I really like from a design perspective, I think it's safe to say that a vehicle like this would probably have sold much better than the Cybertruck. And look, maybe Tesla will crack the code on the Cybertruck and offer a more affordable variant soon, but I would still argue that a vehicle like this is going to appeal to a wider addressable market. When it comes to Tesla insurance and the safety score, Tesla has updated it saying that excessive speeding is now measured as a proportion of driving time in excess of 85 miles per hour or speeding in relation to vehicles in front of you. But for now, this is only a beta, and they did say your safety score is for educational purposes only and will not impact your insurance availability or premium. And we know that's the case in California, so perhaps this is only for that market right now. In a confounding move by Ford, they're going to offer employee pricing to all customers until June 2nd. The program is called the From America for America plan. I'll send you guys off into the weekend with Dan Priestley dunking on Fred and Electric. As Electric reported, the Tesla Semi was suffering more delays and dramatic price increases. But Dan Priestley said no change to schedule and multiple incorrect conclusions. The future is bright, electric, and cost effective. And Fred's out here saying, I know everyone's busy with tariffs, but it looks like this big news is falling through the cracks. No other outlet has picked it up yet, even though I posted it at 5 a.m. Well, Fred, maybe it's because you drove your credibility directly into the ground a long time ago. Tesla stock closed the day at $239.43, down 10.42%, but the NDX was down 6.07%. Given the magnitude of the NDX decline, Tesla actually held up relatively well today, although I know it doesn't seem like it. It was another big volume day, trading about 43% above the average, and the average itself is up significantly over the past few months. Don't forget, check out Delete Me linked below if you're interested. Grab that 20% off, and to all of you supporting the channel in that way, thank you very much. Hope you guys have a safe and wonderful weekend. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.